Hello all and welcome to another review of mine. Today I'm going to review the Ration de Combat Individuelle Rechouffable, or the French Individuelle Reheatable Combat Ration. The best before date of this ration is the 7th of September 2025 and this is menu number 11, which contains as a main the pistachio stuffed sausage and pork risotto with mushrooms, and as a starter it has the pork pate and mushrooms. So very excited about reviewing this ration. It is my first 24-hour French combat ration or military ration or MRE that I've ever had. So great to do that the first time on camera. I've had one 8-hour ration before, which is also on my channel, which was really good. And of course, French military rations are considered probably some of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. So very excited to see what we get. The ration itself comes in a sturdy carton box, which is wrapped in foil. So let's open it up. The box itself has an easy strip you can open. This is what we get. We get a full box of food for 24 hours. First up, we have our pack of biscuits, which have 3 flavors. Then we have our MX3 Nutrition Muesli Breakfast, 100 grams of that, which will make 220 grams. Then we have our instant soup, which is a Thai soup. Then we have the first of 2 isotonic sports drinks. This one has lemon flavor. We might only get one, actually. Then we have 1 package of strawberry jam, dark chocolate bar, 70% chocolate. We got 1 tiny 21-gram combat fuel bar, banana flavor. We got our 30 grams of that, so lots of sweets so far. And then we have a small fruit bar, apricot, 30 grams of that. And then we have an Isostar caffeinated cereal bar, 21 grams of that. So far, a lot of sweets. We have 5 bars basically of sweets. Then we have our standard pack of napkins. And then we have our cheese fondue, relatively large can of that. Pâté forestière, which is a pork pâté with, I presume, a bit of offal in it. But we'll see when we try. And then we have our first main, which is sausages with pistachios. Interesting combination to me. Never had them before or anything like that. So curious to see how that will taste. And then we have our second main, our risotto with pork and mushrooms. Both cans are 300 grams, by the way, so quite substantial. And then finally, we have an Amichouf reheatable spit stove, which I'm not going to use because I'm inside. And then we have a nice little compact accessory pack, which comes easily openable in its own peel. And the accessory pack contains 2 sugars, salt and pepper, 2 packs of that. And then we have 1 Mama Ines hot chocolate drink. And finally, we get 2 bags of tea, 1 mint and 1 black. And we got 2 Mama Ines freeze-dried coffees. Quite curious about these because they look quite premium to me, actually. Fair trade, 100% Arabica, decent content weight-wise. So curious to see the coffee, if that actually is any good. So yeah, that is everything in the ration. Quite a lot of food, a lot of variety as well, especially in the sweets. Of course, since this is a 24-hour ration, I'm not gonna eat this all in one go. I'm gonna divide this up in breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'll see you soon with what I chose for breakfast. This is what I chose to have, so let's open everything up and get it out on the tray. First up, just to have the biscuits. Not probably gonna use all of them for breakfast because it's a big pack. Quite a lot. Let's see which are which. Guessing these are the cereal ones. Then these are the chocolate ones. I guess these are the salty ones. So I'm gonna use 2 of the cereal ones and 1 of the salty ones, or perhaps 1 of the chocolate ones, so we can try them all out. These are the chocolate ones. Quite a modest chocolate smell to them. So there we go. Let's try one. You can see bits of chocolate in it, not a lot. Still looks pretty whole wheat. And those are actually pretty still. Texture is a little bit off. It's a bit soft, but not in a good way. And the chocolate flavor is there, but very mild. So let's see if the cereal crackers are any better. This is how they look like. Nice whole grain texture. Let's try one by itself. And those also pretty musty, pretty stale. Don't really have any significant flavor to them. You don't really taste them as much more whole wheat than the chocolate ones. They're just a little bit less sweet, but not more grainy or anything like that. And then finally, we have our salted biscuits. These are a little bit less whole grain. Let's try. Yeah, these are probably the better ones of the three, but I don't like either of them that much. These are not great. I think even MRE crackers would be better. So yeah, there's something off about them. I don't know if that's just the age, or that they're a bit stale or musty, or if they use a specific preservative. And these are the ingredients of the biscuits. They are quite different, but there's a lot of vegetable fat in them, so perhaps that's sort of what makes it taste off. They are quite calorific for biscuits. And with that out of the way, let's make our drink. I chose the black tea and a coffee for breakfast. Here's our black tea, just a regular tea bag. And then we have our Mama Ines coffee, 100% Arabica. Smells quite nice, quite strong actually, a little bit sour almost. You get a decent amount. And the French drink their coffee like I do. They say to only put 150 milliliter to 200 milliliters of coffee, but I won't add too much water. And then let's make our energy muesli, which is flavored with strawberry, cranberry, and raspberry. And it is muesli with yogurt. So we get 100 grams of this, which is 352 calories. So quite a hefty muesli. And we should add 120 milliliters water with this. And it's supposed to be done quite quickly. So let's see. You get quite a big pouch with it. And there's also some brownish powder. Don't really know what that is. Might be muesli. For the rest, different types of grain. Yeah, let's add our water. Try to measure out 120 milliliters as best I could. And you can see some things floating at the top. And let's mix this together well. There's some chocolate in there. I guess that's what the brown powder was. Also cacao. And then let's let that wait for a little bit. Well, that's rehydrating. Let's do the part of the ration that I'm looking forward to the least, which is trying out the cheese fondue with goat cheese, I think. Fromage de chèvre. So if it's goat cheese, it might actually be okay. I don't dislike goat cheese that much as I dislike normal cheese, because it's normally a little bit more salty. But best before the 9th of 2025. So it's not a very small can. We get 78 grams and it has 267 calories per 100 gram. Let's open this up. Ugh. And that's how it looks like. Nice imprint from the can. Very shiny and very cheesy smelling. Doesn't really smell like goat cheese though. It smells just like, you know, plastic cheese, but I'm sure this will taste better if you like cheese. I don't. So for me, the less it tastes like cheese, the better. I'll just grab a spoon. It's very smooth, almost like a cheese spread. I'll try a little bit on its own. It's very, very creamy. There's a lot more of the cheese flavor than, for instance, like a cheese spread in an American MRE, which is why I would like it. But yeah, I think if you do like cheese, this would be quite a good one. And I'll just try a little bit of this on a salted cracker, see if that suddenly inspires a love of cheese in me. So here's our cheese on a salted cracker, so let's try. This is definitely not for me. It has a little bit of a sharpness or funk to it as well. It's very creamy, very salty, but I just don't like cheese, so there's nothing I can do there. I do think if you would like cheese though, this would be a great MRE cheese and probably one of the better cheeses you could have in a ration. But to me, this just is not my thing at all. But what might be more up my alley should be the strawberry jam. And let's try this on a cereal cracker, very runny. This is how it looks like, quite dark. So let's try. Again, that tastes quite nice. I think as far as jams go, this is one of the better ones I've had. You can definitely taste a little bit of strawberry there, mostly still just sweet. but I think it goes well with the cereal cracker. So if you would be so inclined and you would like cheese, probably also make a cheese jam cracker sandwich type of thing. Final thing before we can go to our muesli is our IsoStar cereal bar with caffeine. We got a small 21 gram bar of that, and the main ingredient is glucose syrup with soy. So let's try. That just looks like any old cereal Rice Krispie bar. Quite small, a little bit sticky because of the glucose syrup, but let's try. And that is excellent. It actually has a really strong espresso flavor. So it's an espresso cereal bar, which I guess where it also gets the caffeine from. But that's really good. It's also quite dense, quite chewy. And then as a final food component, we have our energy muesli. Rehydrated it for quite some time. I did put the amount of water on the package. So let's put that out. So that's how that looks like. A little bit dark, but quite nicely rehydrated. Not very runny, so I guess that's how it's supposed to be. Not a lot of fruit, as far as I can see, mostly just flakes of oat. And there's a close-up of it. Just rehydrated muesli, I guess, so let's try. Yeah, that's quite interesting. You can definitely taste the yogurt in it. It's a little bit more sour than regular milk. Not very sweet. It has a nice fruit flavor to it, which is fresh, but it's not really sweet. So it's quite an interesting one. I don't really know what is the brown powder. If I look at the ingredients list, I presume it might be ground up caramelized sunflower seeds, because for the rest I don't really see any cacao in there at all. Just the powder might also just be the sugar. So yeah, that is a good muesli. Just a little bit sour because of the yogurt, but it has a nice little bit of freshness because of the freeze-dried fruits. You can definitely still taste them even though it's only 8% of the package. And then to wrap up our meal, let's finish it up with some more caffeine. First up, we have our black tea. Quite a nice tea as well. Has some sweetness by itself, so I would not add sugar to this. And then we have our espresso strength freeze-dried coffee. So very curious about this, but it is very smooth. I'm a big fan of this. This is really a good freeze-dried coffee. I think by far the best one I've had in an MRE so far. It's actually really smooth, pretty robust, and not bitter at all. So a lot of coffee flavor, none of the bitterness that you get in some of the other freeze-dried coffees. So that is my cup of tea or coffee, I guess. So yeah, that was it for breakfast. I think of the components I liked the most, it was the energy bar and the coffee. I think the cheese also would be fine if you would like cheese. And I think the muesli was also excellent. I just didn't really care for the biscuits. But yeah, this was it for breakfast. So hope to see you soon for lunch. Hello all and welcome back to lunch. And for lunch I'll be having the sausage with pistachio, which will also contain mashed potatoes. So I'll put this in some boiling water so it can heat up. And while it is heating up, we can make our Thai soup, which also includes coconut milk. So I guess that is what makes it Thai. And let's open this up and mix it with some hot water. We should mix this with 250 milliliters of water. And this is what that looks like. It contains little vermicellis as well, so it's not just soup, little pasta bits. And let's add about 250 mils of water. And let's give that a good whirl. Quite a pleasant aroma actually. Smells a little bit citrusy. Give that some time to rehydrate, and then we might as well make our next drink, which is our isotonic sports drink with lemon flavor. Very fine sugary powder. So let's add our water. A little bit cloudy white texture to that. And besides that, our lunch is relatively light. We still have some of the different biscuits. And then we also have some of our bars still. We have this Combat Fuel banana. It comes in 21 grams, about 100 calories. And the main components are glucose syrup and palm oil. And it has some Crispies in it. Never had these before, so let's try. Oh, that's really interesting. But this almost looks like a soy protein energy bar. So it has a very soft texture. It's a little bit like Play-Doh, basically. But interesting. You can see some of the cereals there and some of the banana. Here's a close-up of it. So let's try. Yeah, that's very pleasant. Has a really nice, pleasant texture. It's very easy to eat. It's slightly sweet. You have a little bit of crunch because of the Rice Krispies. A hint of banana flavor and just a really nice texture. So this is a really nice bar that I've never had before. And as we're still waiting, we might as well use our fruit bar with apricot flavor. Now they say this is with apricot flavor because the main ingredient is actually apple. So it's 37.5% apple and 12.5% apricot. And that's why it's a fruit bar with apricot flavor, because it's mostly probably the cheaper apple. And that is how that looks like. It's candied, obviously, so there's some loose sugar in there, but it's very dense and not very malleable. So quite a big block of some sort of fruit chewy kind of thing. Let's try. And that is actually really awesome. It is not as hard as it appears. Has a nice core of apricot flavor, and it actually tastes quite natural. Obviously it's very sweet because half of the bar is basically sugar, but that's really, really nice actually. I'm pretty surprised by that. I expected it to be more sort of like chemical candy type thing. And finally we have our Thai soup, rehydrated quite well. Actually it's quite thick, so it's actually a soup, not just like a broth. Let's try that. And that is also surprisingly good. It actually has some lemongrass flavor. You can taste the coconut. So it actually sort of has a little bit of Asian/Thai flavors to it. The consistency is quite nice. I think this would go well with some of our crackers. I am going to use the whole wheat crackers. I think that's a good addition, but I think the way to go would be to either crumble up some of the crackers and then put it in the soup, or just use it as you can see, quite brittly. So this is how I'll use the crackers, and that's also a good combination. I mean, the biscuits basically, they are not very firm. They're a little bit soggy by themselves. So I guess if you put them in the soup, I'll just add volume, not much else. This is, I think, the way I would do it with two of these. Just crumble them up and put them in the soup. But one thing I want to show you is the reheater kit, because it is quite interesting, I think. First of all, you have this beautiful matchbook or matchbox with the Eiffel Tower on one end and the Arc de Triomphe on the other. Then you have some French branded toothpicks, 6 water purification tablets, which you need to use 1 or 2 per liter. So up to 6 liters of water. You get the foldable stove, which I won't fold. Large real trash bag. You get 6 of these fuel tablets, which actually don't smell. But more importantly, you get this cute little handle. And here we have our main, the pork sausage with pistachio. This is in a different can than the other main. It has a best before date of September 2025, and it contains 300 grams or 490 calories with a nice mix of carbs, fat, and protein. And this is how the handle is supposed to work. So you can take it from the heater and not burn yourself. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Let's open up our main. Oh, that looks good. So a lot of mashed potato in there. It has a really good smell to it as well. There's supposed to be butter in the mashed potatoes as well. And here we see real slices of nice sausage, and the green is the pistachio. So looks quite awesome. So yeah, big slices of sausage in here with the mashed potato. And this is the sausage itself. Looks nice and coarse, like a real sausage. Quite excited. Has a bit of a smoky smell to it. And let's try. And that is pretty awesome. It is just a really nice sausage. It has a lot of flavor to it. The potatoes are pretty buttery, pretty smooth. There's a little bit of sourness to it. I think that's because there's white wine in there as well. And the sausage is just really nice. It is a bit sweet. It is salty. It is smoky. Has a really good texture, and you can see there as well a lot of fat, so a lot of flavor. Notice the pistachio that much. I guess it just gives a little bit of bite. But the skin itself is also quite firm and gives a nice snap. And knowing that comes from a can, I think that is pretty impressive, because I think these cans are supposed to last for 4 years. I think here the French rations make their reputation true to really try and showcase just how fatty the sausage is. Here's a close-up. You can see these big white strands of fat, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it gives a lot of flavor to the dish. I already finished the sausage, but it does give me an opportunity to try the potatoes with the pepper. Good big chunks of black pepper. Doesn't really need it, but just to, they're just potatoes, so cannot hurt. Here we have a spoon with some nicely coarsely ground black pepper. So yeah, that is it almost. We could still make a coffee, but I don't really feel like it today. It's already relatively late for me, a late lunch. So I thought the main was really good. Didn't really need the pepper. Just awesome flavors for quite a simple meal. But to finish things off for lunch, we have our isotonic lemon drink still. And just like the previous one I had in the 8-hour ration, not a big fan of these isotonic drinks. They are just sweet, but they have this really strange sort of consistency. I don't know, it's quite viscous, which I don't really like in a drink. The flavor as well is a little bit off. It's a really soft lemon flavor. It's not chemical nor natural. So yeah, that was it for lunch. It was a good lunch, although not as much as, for instance, the German ration that I reviewed recently, which was a massive lunch and still a massive dinner. This is a good portion size and still some variety, and we would still have the biscuits to snack on if we would want to do so. But overall, very impressed by the main, very impressed by the energy bars, and see you soon for dinner. Hello all, and welcome for dinner. As it is already a little bit late for me, I'm gonna wrap this up relatively quickly, but luckily we also don't have a huge amount of stuff to go through yet. So first up, I'm gonna heat up the main, like always, and then make the drinks. So I'll be right back. And while the main is heating up, let's make our drinks. So we still have our tea left. I thought it would be nice to finish up with dinner with the non-caffeinated drinks to have a nice quiet sleep. Here we have our tea bag, and this would probably be a good item to use the sugars with. First, I'm gonna try the tea out without, see if it needs it. White, curious about the Mama Ines cacao beverage. And we get 20 grams of this that we need to hydrate in 150 to 200 milliliters of water. And the main ingredient is sugar with 15% cocoa and some milk. There's a very nice smell to it. Put that in the cup. A decent amount of powder. We don't also need to add too much water to this. So I'm gonna go for 150 ml and half the cup. And this definitely we need to stir. Now, as the main is also heating up, we can try our pâté forestier. It is a pork-based pâté with some mushrooms in it. I guess that's why they call it forestier. So let's open this up. And here's a close-up of it. It's quite a gelatinous blob so far, but probably will taste quite nice. So here's the pâté. Let's try. So there's definitely some liver in that pâté, which I don't really mind. It is quite fatty and has quite a strong liver flavor to it. So if you don't like liver pâtés, this probably wouldn't be your thing. And then we need to use our pâté on a cracker. So I spread it out on a salted cracker. You can see here, there's some little pieces of mushroom that you can just about see. It's a pretty coarse pâté, but it spreads relatively easily. I was afraid that the biscuit would break because it's so brittle, but it did not. So let's try it. And I actually think that combination works well, especially it is quite livery. It has a little bit of pepper hints to it, a little bit of spice or kick. Not really a chili kick, but more of a pepper kick. And I think the biscuit does quite well in cutting down on the richness of the pâté. So it makes it a little bit less livery, a little bit less rich. So I think that's quite a nice combination. And to build on the theme of pork with mushrooms, here we have our main, which is risotto with pork and mushrooms. So this comes in a 300 gram can, which has a total of about 540 calories. The main includes as a main ingredient actual pork meat. Then it has arborio rice, and it also has grana padano, which is a Italian cheese. So quite interested to see. It's quite warm as well. Let's open this up. Looks a little bit like a blob, but it is quite runny, quite moist. So I guess once we get this out of the can, and the can is pretty warm, it will look a lot better. Oh. So there's quite a lot of broth or stock in there, liquids. Rice is a little bit gloopy. It's a little bit one mess, but that's often in any kind of canned rice dish. I never had canned rice that was not really gloopy from an MRE. But yeah, let's try a big spoonful of this. And here we have our spoonful of risotto with pork and mushrooms. You can see a big piece of pork and also quite a large mushroom. Then it's sort of in this emulsified rice sauce, but let's try. And yeah, I think that is good. So texturally a little bit all over the place. Pork itself has a really great texture. It's actual pieces of meat, but the rice itself doesn't really have any texture at all. So the combination of the two is a little bit strange. It is nice though. It's pretty savory and you can definitely also still taste the cheese, surprisingly so. There's also quite a big taste of vegetable broth. It actually reminds me a lot of some of the Polish ration mains that I've had with rice. I think they also came with big pieces of pork, so perhaps it's just a similar process. And here's a mushroom. So there's a few types of mushrooms in this, not just one type of mushroom, but this is the biggest piece I could find, which has a pretty nice chewy texture to it. So overall not bad. I am gonna add all of the pepper and I'm actually gonna add a little bit of salt. I almost never add salt to ration meals because they're salty enough. I think this can actually use a little bit extra. Let's mix it up and let's try a bite. And that added a little bit of extra flavor to it. I think overall it's really good. You get quite a lot of actual meat in this. So I think that's really great. And I think this is on the same level as sort of a Polish ration, but it's definitely not as complex as the sausage with pistachios. So overall, a really good main, but it's not the best main I've ever had. And then, before we start with the chocolate bits, let's have our nougat. I'm always a big fan of nougat. This one comes in another small 21 gram bar, I think, and it will come with melon, raspberry, and apricot. So here we have our nougat with the different dried fruits. It's quite a dense block. It's a little bit stale. I guess it's end of life for this ration. It's very chewy. I think this would be quite a difficult one to eat if you have a lot of fillings or crowns, actually. But for the rest, this is a really nice little candy bar. And then let's try our 70% dark chocolate. And this comes in a serving size of 25 grams. So it's not bloomed. It's perfectly nice, shiny, unbloomed military chocolate. And actually, one trick I have to make it even tastier, to use some of the salt and put it on this kind of really dark chocolate. It really elevates the chocolate. I think the combination of really dark chocolate and sea salt is the way to go. It's also one of my favorite chocolate actually is Lindt with sea salt. So that's the combination that I'm replicating there to keep with the chocolate. Here is our chocolate milk. And that is more sweet than anything. I guess another thing you could do, probably break up one of these cubes and then add them to the chocolate milk. Try and make it a little bit more chocolatey. And then finally, we have our mint tea as a closer to this meal. And that's actually very fresh. I think actually it works really well after the chocolate. Mint and chocolate is a classic combination, but that's a nice non-caffeinated warm drink, which I guess can be important for people. And here we have our chocolate slowly melting. This might be a waste of good chocolate, or it might elevate the chocolate drink to the next level. That actually is a massive improvement. I think what you could do, you could use half of the dark chocolate, perhaps add a little bit of the sugar. Then you could make a really nice, luscious hot chocolate drink to end the day with. So yeah, that was it for this 24-hour French military ration. This menu number 11 was really nice and I would totally recommend it. I think both of the mains were great to good, and I've also really enjoyed all of the other components in it. The only thing I didn't really care about were the biscuits and the isotonic beverage base. And also, personally, I did not like the cheese, but I presume if you do like cheese, you would actually really enjoy it. So overall, a great ration and really enjoyed reviewing it. So my next review is going to be an 8-hour Norwegian one. So looking forward to that. I tried a few of those already, but never recorded it. So I know that they're really good. And yeah, that was it for today. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.